Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all doing good today. So I think I have everybody on mute and everybody, you can leave your video on, you can leave it off. It will be somewhat useful if you leave it on, especially during some of our demonstrations. You'll be able to get into it a little bit more, being able to see everybody else participate. I'll be doing it too, so it'll be a nice visual for everybody. I'm pretty excited about everything. I'm just going to wait just a second. I've got this little box up that allows me to have people come on in. So I'm going to slip that over here. Okay, so first I want to talk a little bit about what exactly we'll be doing today. So it's exciting because this foundational process, this three-step process, you can really adapt to any tool or technique. So if you already have something that you're using that you love, this is going to help you so you can keep that process and just use it intentionally every time with this as that foundation. Because what this is an innate process that is already happening in your brain. So we're working with the process that's already there. We're working with your brain. So I'll go into it a little bit further once we get a little more started. Let me switch here. All right, so pretty much what we're going to be learning are the two exercises that this is going to be last to regulate your nervous system and get you out of any unwanted habituated pattern. I will say too that you can really use anything you want to get out of a habituated pattern. The only reason I use these two exercises specifically is because I like that help to regulate my nervous system because I can be really anxious and it's very helpful. So I enjoy them. So I hope you enjoy them too. The three-step process, especially how and why this works. That's always been really big for me. I love to ask questions. So if something's happening, I'm always like, well, why? Why does that work? What is going on to make this work? So that's been my quest. And that's what I'm going to share with you today. So I don't want to waste any more time. I want to get right into it. If you guys have questions, definitely share in the chat. I'll probably wait until the end. The class will be about, or the workshop will be about an hour and a half. I left a half hour for questions at the end. So it might not go until 11:30, but it might go to 11:30, just to let you all know. I know people like to ask questions, and sometimes when we go through it, I'll answer them later on. So I'm not going to look at the chat box right now. So if you need me, unmute yourself and let me know. That'll be, or like go on video and go like this, Melissa. And then I'll be like, okay, I see you. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is a habit? So habits are anything that you're thinking, emotions that come up or actions, anything that you habitually do, that is a habit. And all those habits come from your memory. And our memories work by association. And we start doing that as soon as we're an infant. You can even think of a little tiny baby that comes out of the womb. That little baby's going to be really into warmth and comfort. And when it's cold or maybe has a wet diaper, that's when the discomfort comes. So it starts right away. We start associating that good and bad, that polarity. But what our subconscious does, it doesn't really live in the polarity world. It's not going, well, that last experience was bad, so I don't want to relate it to this new experience. It doesn't work like that. It really just works like how I said with the cave woman in a post the other day. A cave woman goes and looks for berries and gets berries at the same bush every day. And eventually the cave woman sees a saber-toothed tiger. So instantly that habit of going to the bush, that memory of going to the bush, that bush was safe, that's instantly updated. And that's the process that we're going to be talking about today. That updates so quickly, that has evolved to help us survive as a species. So it's cool that we actually know what to use now for inducing that transformational change. So I wanted to touch a little bit on memory too and what that is, since that's what we're going to kind of be talking about. So episodic memory are those experiences that you recall autobiographically. So that's like seeing through your own lens, through your own perspective, just like with somebody else. Like if you go out to dinner with somebody, or like a holiday with your family. You're all going to have different stories, even though you were at the same place. Semantic memories, which we're not talking about, are the factual memories, like what's the capital of Wisconsin, what year something happened, all that stuff. Memories are also very malleable, so they can change, and most likely do change every time you revisit them. I like to think of the game telephone. So every time people are passing down the message to somebody, it most likely gets changed, even if that changes just a little bit. And the way that I look at it sometimes is, so when we look at these past memories and we revisit it, we can add on an extra layer of emotion to it. Like, let's say we thought of something that gave us a little bit of anxiety, and now we're revisiting it again, and we remember, oh, last time I had a lot of anxiety from thinking about this. Now you're putting and layering even more anxiety on top of that. So, and that's for good things too. I mean, you can blow up a really good experience that wasn't really that great, but maybe you thought it really was, and you just keep telling yourself that. So it works for all different kinds of things. And really, I say this all the time. Even when I was talking about the Akashic records, time is irrelevant. Your brain does not go by that. When you are thinking about something, your brain could think that it happened yesterday. I love thinking of the cliche, it only felt like yesterday that I saw this person. And really think about that, and think about what that means and what that feels like when you haven't seen somebody for a while, and now all of a sudden you see them. What typically happens is you have all these memories flooding back to you of this person. And you're like, oh, these times were so great. This was so wonderful. So it feels like yesterday because you keep revisiting all these memories. And since your subconscious doesn't understand time, that's going to feel like it just happened. And that's why some of these emotions can feel so heavy a lot. And like it's feeling like it is, or it did for the first time, because you are presently in that emotion. You are presently in that situation. So that's huge for what we're talking about. Especially your subconscious is nonverbal. So, you know, the ego, the conscious, that, like, especially mine is la 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 all the time talking, but your subconscious doesn't do that. And another cliche I can share with that is just not having the words for something. When something happens in your life and you're like, oh, I'm just speechless, I don't even know what to say, but you know that feeling, and that's your soul, that's your um that's that's your emotions. And sometimes that's why I don't like labeling emotions all the time too, because you can really get so into, okay, well, which emotion is this? Let's look at the emotion wheel, and there's so many different emotions to choose from, and it's like, okay, that's really overwhelming for somebody like me. So labeling them can be really hard. And the good thing with all of this is you don't have to. This process is so easy. And we're going to talk a little bit more about why the memory is malleable, because this is really important to the reconsolidation process. Because when you activate a memory, that's when you can change it. And it can really be changed in any way, whether you know it or not. Just like with the cave woman thing, it's not like she went there and went, okay, I'm going to update my habit now of going to this bush because it's scary. Our brains don't do that. We don't consciously think about it because that would hinder our survivability. We want to be able to survive quickly and be efficient, and that's how our brains work. So when we introduce all this new information, while it's malleable, it's a really good thing to introduce something that you're intentional about and that you're aware of. Because if we're going into all of this, trying to update a new habit, trying to update some memories, and you're not being intentional, you could still tack on some emotions you might not necessarily want to. So like I said before, we're really working with the brain's natural process, which is great because then we're not fighting with anything, which I'll talk a little bit about too. So here's the 3-step process. And I put fluid there because it is fluid, because number 2 could happen before number 1. I don't want you to get super stuck on which number it is. It's really important to follow this process. And really what it is fully activating your memory. So you want to fully activate that habit. So when you think about it, you want to feel like you're actually experiencing it, because you can't change intellectually. You can't intellectually think about this and go, oh yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. You need to get into it. You really need to say, okay, when was the last time this happened? What was I doing? What was I thinking about? How did I feel? And really put yourself in there. And that's really important. So while the memory is still malleable, which is about 5 hours, you have to use a disconfirming belief to counteract that core belief, deeply rooted belief that you have. So what you do now, sometimes for me, when I first started doing this, I was like, how am I going to find that? How do I find a disconfirming belief when that is my core belief? And if I would have known how to change it, I would have done it. So I'm going to give you a really simple, easy way to do it. And we're going to go through this process together and try this out for ourselves. So you can get a better idea of what this actually looks and feels like. And then really what you do is you just repeat number 1 and 2. That's how simple this is. And don't let the simpleness fool you, because it's finding that deeply rooted belief. That's a huge one too, is being able to actually see what is causing this habit, what is causing this production of these symptoms of thinking, emotions, and behavior. What's causing that? What's causing me to do this? So in order to find that, I do have some tools and techniques that I use. But like I said, if you're already using something that you love and works great, that's fantastic. This is just a way to make sure you're hitting that transformational process all the time. Because sometimes even me, when I was first coaching, I would really hit the nail on the head with somebody and I'd be like, yeah, that worked out really great. But then it's like, well, how did I do that? What happened in that change to help them with that change? And that's what this is. So what I want to do is talk a little bit about the science of it. Okay, so I'm kind of a nerd, but I'm not. But I want to explain this a little. So I'm going to back up so you can actually see me. So what it is your neural network has a specific, so look at it like this. This is your neural network right now, and this is your current habit, and it is like locked onto each other. They love each other. They've been doing this for a while, and it's so fantastic. They're hugging all the time. What we want to do is we want to unlock that habit. And that's the habit that we want to go into and change. That's the one that's malleable. So while it's open and unlocked, we can go into it and we can actually update it. And that's why it's called profound transformational change, because you're actually changing the habit itself, the memory itself. And you can, it's giving it a new perspective. And that's why sometimes all it takes is a doctor to tell us something where we're like, oh, this is great, or oh, that's not so great. It was just words that told us. So it's a huge, huge difference to extinction training. So extinction training, think of that same neural network, okay? And extinction training is adding another one on. So you still have that one that's hugging tightly and they're best friends. But now what you're doing is you're introducing a new one. And that new one, they're barely waving at each other at the end of other sides of the room, where you want them to touch each other and get to know each other. But that's not easy for your brain, because that other one that's hugging, that basic, that deeply rooted belief, that's still there. That's not going anywhere. So now you have something competing with each other, and that's so hard to do. And it's, willpower can only take you so far. And that's what extinction training is. And the extinction part of it is so misleading, because it's really not extinction training at all. And it can actually cause a lot more problems. And I actually saw this a lot when I was a dog trainer, trying to suppress one behavior and introduce another one. It doesn't work like that, because it's still there. And trying to suppress something without addressing it, without handling it, is like sweeping more things under the rug. And that's why some positive affirmations don't work. When you're talking to yourself and you don't believe something, this is what's happening. You are trying to compete with something that is so ingrained in your brain and so tightly held that your brain, that's not easy. That's not easy for your brain. And like I said, your brain doesn't work in polarity. So your brain doesn't care if it's good or bad. Your brain is just doing what's efficient. Your brain's doing a really good job. Like give your brain a round of applause, because it's been doing a fabulous job keeping up with what is going on underneath. So you can at least feel good knowing that, like, hey, you know what? I have been doing a really good job at this. So now, you can flip it around and really make yourself feel better the other way. So now I want to talk a little just about Heather, you're going to like this a lot about the other technical techniques and tools with all the acronyms. What I want to talk about a little bit after, we're going to do a demonstration right after this slide. The sentence completion, habit deprivation, and the galactic Akashic record, those are my three favorite tools that I use. I will say with sentence completion and habit deprivation, sometimes I'll mix them together. Sometimes I'll mix all three together. Everything is so fluid. So don't look at this as some linear, okay, I have to do this, can't mix these two together. If you like this sentence completion and you want to add it onto your coaching toolbox, by all means, please do it. That's exactly what I want to use it for. There's other techniques and tools, the EMDR, that's eye movement, desensitization, reprocessing. EFT is emotional freedom tapping, NLP, neuro linguistics programming, CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, hypnosis, shadow work. There's so many different tools. You can use this with anything because it really is just activating that core memory and disconfirming it and really feeling the two and changing your perspective at that core level. So, all right, everybody, because now we're going to be doing this together. Here's the demonstration of what I want you to do. The really cool thing about this is you don't need to tell me how you're feeling. You can do this yourself whenever you want to. And that's what I like about this. So what I want you to do is I want you to think of something, and I'll share mine with you. So I'm speaking next week, Thursday, about an experience that happened to me 10 years ago. And I'm nervous. I looked at the ballroom. It's huge. It's beautiful. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be speaking up here. Okay. So I'll do this with me and you'll be able to see, but you can do it for yourself too. So my habit, my memory that I want to activate is me. I can see myself standing on the stage and I'm like tripping and I'm fumbling and I'm stumbling on my words and I feel humiliated. And that's what I feel like is going to happen. So I'm really nervous about it. And in my body, I feel like a warmth and just kind of heaviness all in my stomach area, and my arms get tingly, my legs get tingly, and it just kind of feels like, and I would give that an 8. I love tracking my progress with scales like this because then it gives me a really good idea of where I went and where I'm going, if this is helping me, if it's not, do I need to change something? It's such a good indication of all that. So for me, I would really say mine's at an 8 when I see myself standing there and I'm tripping and I'm humiliating myself. So I can really, what I want to do is I really want to feel, even close your eyes if you have to, and feel yourself being there with that thing that you want to change, and just experience for a second, see what's all around you and really feel it. Because then what I want you to do, and here's what you can do to disconfirm it. So what I do is I would say I want to feel confident. So I put my example on here. I want to feel confident when I go up there. So when I go up there, I can see myself walking on the stage. And even if now listen to this, even if I do trip, I'm going to stand up with confidence and keep going. So it's not that I'm taking away me tripping and saying, I'm not going to trip at all. Maybe I do. But the way that I respond to it is I'm going to be confident no matter what. That's what I want to see. So I'm thinking about how it's going to feel. What would a 10 feel like to me? If I was confident in this situation, how would it feel? Because this needs to feel real to you. You really need to try this on and see how it looks and see what the confidence feels like, because I can see myself walking in there with a smile and my head held high, and I'm really enjoying it. My body feels a lot lighter and I feel like I could float on the stage even if I do trip, and maybe we all laugh and it's silly for a second, and maybe that lightens the mood because it's a pretty heavy topic. And it's being okay with all these different perspectives. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, now that I have that confidence in me, now I can feel that confidence, I'm going to put myself back into my original memory. So now I'm going back into that original experience of me feeling humiliated into me feeling confident in that situation. And how does it feel? And how does it look for me when I originally felt so humiliated in front of these people to now how does it feel confident, being confident? So it's going back and forth. And now I label it again. Okay, well, maybe now I don't feel as bad. Maybe Now I feel instead of feeling humiliated, maybe it's a 4 now. And maybe I want to get it to 0 or to 1. So I'm going to try this again, and I'm going to keep going back and forth until it starts feeling better for me. And that's why I like to have that scale too, because it gives you a good idea of if you're going down or not. Because sometimes you can grab disconfirming beliefs from really anything. It's anything. I like grabbing the opposite feeling. So the opposite emotion of that situation. So for me, it was humiliation. The opposite of that for me is in that situation is confidence. So when I walk up there, even when something happens, I can feel really good about it. And I can start switching back and forth and seeing that I'm going to be okay no matter what. Now, this is just a somewhat smaller example. But what I could do is I could start asking myself, well, why? Why am I so scared of public speaking? And that could be even more discovery of the deeply rooted belief. Because what happens if I just hit that surface, most beliefs they usually have two unconscious or two conscious sort of symptoms. So symptoms are your habit or your thoughts, actions, and behaviors. And when those start popping up, those are conscious, and we just kind of see them as everyday stuff. The three layers underneath are usually subconscious, and we don't necessarily look at those. Where sometimes my deeply rooted belief could very well be, I'm scared to be judged by others. I feel like I don't belong. And all of this stuff starts coming out because now you can start asking yourself these questions, especially if you feel safe with who you're doing it with and you feel comfortable with. And in order to do that, you can start using stuff like sentence completion. So using this sentence completion is probably my favorite one, just because it's so unbelievably easy and everybody gets it pretty quickly. So you can even think of something yourself. And what it is you don't want to pre-think the ending. You just want to let yourself finish it yourself. I'm scared of public speaking because ... and you want to end it and do it a few times. You really want it to be a powerful statement. Just like with everything that I've been talking about, it's involving yourself and immersing yourself in what you're actually doing, because you want to not just intellectually think about it. That's going to be really difficult. And you're pretty much just going to say, oh, well, I already did that. Now it's done. So it's really immersing yourself and thinking what's going to be the best sentence for yourself. Now, if you're going to do this with a client, you're going to definitely want to have some sort of intake form first to have some sort of idea of what they're coming in for, because then you can even start using their own language, because you don't want to put words in your client's mouth. You don't want to assume something from them. You really just want to understand their story. You don't want to change their story. This isn't about changing anybody's story. This isn't about changing anybody. This is only about viewing an experience in your life differently and changing that perspective and being able to do it in a way that actually works. And it's at first it seems a little too simple, but I really want you to practice with it, play with it a little, and see how it works on you. Try it on yourself first. So with all of this work, I tried it all on myself first to see how it really was. I'm pretty stubborn when it comes to stuff, and I I really put my guards up, especially if I'm trying to figure things out myself. I have a coach, and she's great at talking to me through things and not letting me cover things up. So that's great. But that's why it's great to have a coach and somebody who can really help you with stuff and not make you feel like you're going to be judged for something, or they're going to try to say, oh, you know what? Well, you just have to be more positive. You just have to be more positive. It's not about that. It's not about being more positive. It's about understanding that you have choices. You have choices that you get to do, especially with me, public speaking. I have choices with that. And that's important for all of us to recognize when we're doing stuff, because that can induce a lot of fear too. There's a lot of things that can induce fear. And like I said, with that emotional wheel, There's so many on there, and I used to love looking at it. And I remember looking at it for like 15 minutes. I'd be like, which one do I feel? I don't really know. I have no clue what any of these feel like. And it became frustrating because it was just a little too much. Where this, you don't have to understand the emotion, you don't have to label it. You just have to experience what you were experiencing and really pull it out for yourself. So another one that I like is the habit deprivation. Therapy calls it symptom deprivation. So really what it is you just have to see what it's like without that habit that you have. Let's say that you smoke cigarettes. Well, what would happen if you didn't smoke cigarettes? Because if you can go a full night's sleep without smoking a cigarette, you are already past that point of physical withdrawal symptoms, which is 4 hours. So first of all, we know that you're not physically addicted to it if you can sleep through the night and not have a cigarette. So if you're without it, it's all of a sudden you view it a little differently, and it gives you a different perspective of, oh my gosh, well, if I don't have a cigarette right now, I feel like I'm going to crawl out of my skin. I feel like I might start crying. And I used to smoke cigarettes. I loved smoking cigarettes. So I don't anymore, which is great, but it was, I loved smoking cigarettes a lot. And even the thought of not smoking cigarettes, to me, it was hard and it was scary. And that's what you want to confront. That's what you want to see. That's what you want to articulate and experience. And at first it's scary, sure, because we've already been so scared of our emotions and our feelings for so long that when we revisit something that's been really traumatic, or even something that we didn't know happened, or maybe we now have a different view on our childhood and we thought it was great and now it's like, wow, that's really what happened. There are so many different things that can come up when doing something like this. And it's really important to have somebody that helps you feel safe if you're not comfortable doing it alone. But it's also really important to give yourself some compassion during this, because you never know what's going to come up. Sometimes you just don't know what you actually believe. You don't know what your deeply rooted belief is. And then when you uncover it and you're like, wow, sometimes it's denial first of, that's not really how I feel, or no, that's not right. But it's allowing it and accepting it and saying, okay, you know what, that's what it was. Let's do something about it now. Now we can be more intentional. So when you uncover all of this and start asking yourself some of these questions, you're really going to be able to see more of what's going on underneath. And I love, I don't remember exactly what it is. I've never really looked into it, but there's something where you just keep asking yourself why. And really this is all along the same lines, as you're just asking different questions to kind of provoke it, but you're really just figuring out why do I feel this way? Why is this coming up for me? And the sentence completion, because for me, I love that one so much, because for me, it was hard to pull that out. It was hard for me just to ask myself why, because I didn't want to answer myself. So when I didn't give myself the choice and I just let myself answer it, that really opened up some things. And it's not hiding from it. It's not denying it. It's just allowing it, which is, sometimes can be really uncomfortable. So before you start doing this with somebody, really, or yourself, really just set those intentions and the expectation for the session to be compassionate with yourself. For whatever comes up, whatever happens is what happens. It's in the past, it happened. Now we can move on from it and grow. Like, hey, this is great because now we found out what it is. Now we found out what's going on. Now we can move on from it. So I did have a masterclass on the Galactic Akashic Records a couple weeks ago. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I still have the replay. Otherwise, I was really astounded to find out that the Akashic Records is basically like a life coaching format. So when I started learning more about it, I'm like, oh, I already do this. This is great. So I love it because you can uncover so many different karmic patterns. You can uncover so many things that have happened on a soul level, and not just what's happened here on Earth. So I don't think it's necessary for all of us to find out what was going on our soul level. I think we all know that in our hearts what we need truly. But I think the Galactic Akashic Records is a really fun way to kind of experience this and get into a little bit more. So I look at this as more of a deep dive and just something that's a little more particular to each specific person. Not everybody's going to like this. Not everyone's going to want this as a toolbox. But like the sentence completion and the habit deprivation, I think everybody can use that just because they're so simple. They're so simple. Even if somebody has coaching advice for me, I can easily give them a sentence completion format just from a little tidbit that they've given me. And I've had multiple people say, holy crap, I can't even believe that. I can't believe I figured this out so easily. And, as humans, we do like to make things so complicating. We look at like signing clients and even helping clients as some huge thing that's so out of reach. And I need to do this and this, and I have to make this. But it's really not that hard. A lot of things are not that hard. We just have to really understand what our intentions are. So especially going into coaching with yourself, coaching with somebody else, it's your intention of going in and really wanting to uncover some of this stuff, because sometimes I'm pretty sure my soul has said, you're not ready for this right now. We're not learning about this right now. You've got to wait, learn a little bit more, and then I'm going to then we can uncover this. So sometimes I let my higher self kind of control that for me, and I respect it because I want to flow with my flow of life. So it's really allowing and accepting what comes up, because sometimes when you go into the records, you don't always get the answers that you want. So the Akashic records, I think, are fantastic. Akashic clearings too, I will say, to me personally, I see it as an equivalent of a way to facilitate the memory reconsolidation, where a lot of people have them separate, where you have the reading first and then you get the clearing. Really, it's like getting your intake form, filling that out, and then doing the coaching session. So that's just the way I look at it. That's just my opinion. But that's how I see it, and that's how I've used it. That's how it's been really helpful for me. And others, you are welcome to use it however you see fit. Just like with everything, take what resonates with you and leave what doesn't. That's the most important thing, because you know what's best for you. You know what's going to work best for you. And that's what this is for. I'm just here to introduce all this amazing stuff that I've learned because I found it helpful. So here are just some good things to know about discovering your deeply rooted beliefs and transforming them. Sometimes what happens, most of the time, I will say, that you are going to have that goodness trickle into other areas of your life, where you are going to update one of your habits and you are no longer going to have habits in other places of your life. But there's also the flip side to that. It also means that you are going to uncover other areas that are not healed yet. And that can also be, sometimes I look at that and I'm like, is there some connection towards the spiritual awakening movement, where people are shifting their perspectives so much? In other words, having this transformational change, and now all of a sudden their perspective is different, and they have all these wounds that are coming up, and other areas that need healing. And so many people feel lost and they're just not sure what to do. They're not sure where to go. Their friends change. Everything changes, and there's no real support for that specific area yet. And that's just the way that I look at it. There's so many people who want help in healing now. This is a huge movement. Everybody can realize that we can do this. And I will say too that I really don't believe healing has to take years. I really, truly don't. If you want to hold on to that trauma and you want to hold on to that because that makes you feel good in a sense, that's your journey and that's what you're choosing to do. For me and for people that I've worked with, we're the kind of people who, I want to move on from this. I'm ready to move on. I'm ready to heal from this. And I always think of that infographic or that meme or whatever people call it, where that person is holding on to the rope and the hand is just so bloody, and it just says letting go sometimes is easier than holding on. And that's true in this case too, where sometimes you just have to let go. You just have to let go, and you have to allow things to happen. But you can also take charge of that too, and take charge of your responses in that flow of what's happening in your life. So I'm going to give a few exercises for you guys to start loosening that habituated pattern. So like I talked before, there's those layers of deeply rooted beliefs where there's one or two conscious ones, thoughts about it, and then there's usually 3 unconscious thoughts about it. So what we're going to do with these interrupt patterns are we're going to start loosening the conscious habituated pattern. So we're not going fully for the deeply rooted one, but we're going to start loosening it. So when you go into that memory reconsolidation session, your brain's already going to be like, oh, okay, I've done that before. I can do this again. And it's, you're training your brain. This is a skill just like anything else that you can learn. The trick to this is actually doing it and experiencing it fully. So I will say that for me, sometimes I will just intellectually do stuff. If I read a book sometimes and it has an exercise, I will just read it and I won't actually do it. That's not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about you actually, if you were to read this book, you are going to really participate and fully immerse yourself in it so you can really get a good understanding of what it is and how it feels for you. So a little bit more about interrupting yourself. People can call it a million different things, a roadblock, just anything to stop that habit. And like I said before, it can really be anything. You don't have to use these 2 exercises. You can literally just stop. You can literally just stop and be like, I'm not going to do this right now. I'm not going to do this. You can literally go do a cartwheel, go to a handstand, go do a backflip or something. It doesn't matter what you do. Go open the fridge and get a drink of water or something. There's so many different things that you can do to stop that habit in its tracks. So this is going to be able to help with compulsive tendencies, anxiety, and especially cravings too. It also, for me, this is my personal experience of having panic attacks. I would have them all the time, especially after I sold my last business. I would just freak out, and it was really hard for me. And now I don't have panic attacks like that because I understand. First of all, I understand when it might happen so I can set myself up for success. But I also have, if I'm not able to set myself up for success, I understand how to do that for myself. And I'll give you an example right now. So I hate fireworks. I've never liked loud noises. I hate it. And my husband's family, they all have like quarter sticks of dynamite and they love blowing stuff up. So I go to my in-laws for the 4th of July and they're all like, yeah, fireworks, let's blow stuff up. And I'm like, oh my God, like I'm going to start freaking out. So instead of freaking out, I went inside and I said, I took my dog inside and I'm like, I'm going to hang out in here because I don't like them and I don't want to hear the loud noises. And what I did was I did the next one that I'm going to show you because this is really easy. You can do it anywhere. I can grab anything that I want, and it didn't require me to think of any sort of process. So bilateral stimulation, super, super easy. Kids learn it all the time. Kids will do it sitting at their desks at school. What I want you to do it with me right now. Grab something that you can hold in your hand. And I want you to allow yourself to feel anxious. Just think of something that feels not super heavy, just feel that little anxiety. Bring it on and give it a number. You don't have to tell me, you don't have to share it. Just give it a number in your head. Okay. Now what I want you to do, I'm going to back up so you can see me. What I want you to do is pass like this. So pass back and forth. We're passing it from the midline. But what I want you to do, now remember what I said about intellectually doing it. What I'm doing right now is I'm intellectually doing it. I'm not getting into it right now. What I want you to do is get into a rhythm. I want you to do it so you are really just thinking about moving it, not just like, okay, yeah, here's my basketball. No, I really want you to get into a rhythm. because what you're doing is you're stimulating both hemispheres of your brain at the same time. Anxiety can't live in both hemispheres of your brain. So you're messing with your biochemistry again and teaching it, okay, this feels a little different. Now, what I want you to do is rate yourself now. After you induce that little bit of anxiety, how do you feel now? Give yourself that number. And you can let me know. I'll look at the chat box now. You can let me know if that did anything for you. Did you feel anything? Hi. Asking why. Yes, yes, yes. Do this and see how it feels, because this is something that's going to stop. When I was getting that anxiety from the fireworks, I went inside and I just grabbed something off the counter. I wasn't at my house, I was at my in-laws. So I just grabbed something off the counter and I just started doing this. And I just started passing it back and forth. And the anxiety in my body went away. It didn't take my anxiety of fireworks away, but it took my anxiety away in the moment, where I started feeling all the tinglies all over myself. And it was like, okay, I'm going to like hyperventilate soon. What can I do? I took a second, went inside, and I'm like, okay, let me do this. And then my body was able to calm down. And when my body was able to calm down, my mind was able to calm down with it. Oh, I love that. It was like a 5 to, ooh, I like this moonstone. I love it. Yes. And that's what it's supposed to do. It's just, it's taking your mind away from that. And it's so simple. It's so easy. Kids can use it. Adults can use it. And you can really do it anywhere with anything, except maybe not while you're driving. That's probably not a good idea. Okay. So this is one of my favorite ones, because this one usually gives people a pretty good impact when you try it out. So what I want you to do is, first, I'll just say a little bit about, I don't know a lot about Richard Brandler. I will say that I did not learn this from him. I learned it from Melissa Tiers, who teaches this. So if you want to look into her, that's great. But this is who founded this spin and laugh, as I call it. He doesn't really call it anything. She doesn't really call it anything. It's just kind of there. So I just called it a spin and laugh, because that's essentially what we're doing. But really what Richard Bandler believed was that every experience of that fear, anxiety, anger, they all have a spin to it. So I want you to take another moment and think about a habit that you have, anything that you might want to change. And I want you to feel the way it spins. I want you to feel, so sometimes what I'll do is I'll think about it, and then I'll start leaning with it. And then I'll bring your hand up, and then I want you to start spinning with it. So I want everybody to start spinning with it and really feel the way it spins. Now your spin could be this way. Maybe it's like this. Maybe it's over here. It's not just always this. Sometimes it can be like this. Okay. So once you have your spin, I want you to spin it outwardly in front of you. And this is a really important step. All these steps are really important. I'll share with you why afterwards. So after you've got your spin out in front of you, I want you to reverse it. I want you to reverse the spin. And now I want you to bring it back towards you. Put it back inside your body. And now I want you to laugh. Even if you have to fake it, laugh like, ha ha ha, silly, ha ha, I'm so weird. Just think about the last time you laughed inappropriately. Just do something to make yourself laugh. And now what I want you to do is I want you to take yourself back into that initial habit that you have and feel that backward spin that's inside. And I'll explain why this works a little differently. So what happens is you've got that anger, that fear that's spinning inside you. Now you're taking that fear and that anger and you're pulling it outside of your body. You're not only pulling it outside of your body, you're also bringing it out and putting it in front of you. So now you just were in control of that emotion yourself. You were able to do that yourself. And now you put it back inside your body. You're not scared. You are deliberately, consciously putting that fear back inside, but now in a different way. And now you're laughing, because the best way to combat fear is by laughing. Even if you have to fake it till you make it, it's laughing, because your body doesn't know if you're ha 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 ha. It's that biochemistry. It's those molecules, those little neurotransmitters that are going everywhere and signaling to the brain what's going on. So you're messing with yourself right now. And what you can do is you can think of this habit. Now, I have an example. It's not a personal example. It's one from Melissa, and I really liked it because I thought it was really impactful just because of the kind of career he had. So she worked with a judge, and she taught this to a judge. And what happened was the judge would get really nervous to go in sometimes. So what he did was every time he'd go in, he would just think of the backward spin, because that's all you have to do. And then he would giggle a little at first and then feel a lot better going into it. So this can really help in the moment with stuff when you walk into, like, let's say when I'm going to walk into public speaking. All I have to do when I walk on that stage is literally think of the backward spin and have a little smile on my face and feel a little bit differently about it. Because the thing is, your mind and your body, it's that habituated pattern. You are messing it up. You are screwing with it. And your brain is like, what? What is that? I didn't know this could happen. So you're opening up your body to all these new possibilities. And you're not just intellectually thinking it, you're doing it with your body. You are feeling it. So it's a completely new experience that is just different. And a lot of the times when you start doing that backward spin, it can feel like, oh, that's weird. And it can feel weird and silly. But that's exactly how it's supposed to feel, because we're not used to that. We're not used to feeling a different way. And when you start changing things, your body too is like, and your brain is like, okay, we can change. Change isn't that hard. I can do this. So again, it's trickling into other areas of your life where you're going to be able to adapt this to so many things. And that's what I like about it so much is this works for so many different people. And if it doesn't work for somebody and you're using that 0 to 10, 1 to 10 scale, you can really track that progress really nicely in a really easy way. And you don't even have to know what the person's talking about. That's another great thing, is they just have to be able to immerse themselves. But I do like the questions, and I like being able to get into it, because if you're not really experiencing it, it's not going to have that same effect. So sometimes doing it with somebody who has that experience is really great. There's not a lot of people who do memory reconsolidation therapy. Honestly, I've read a lot of, I'm going to give you guys my resources. I've read a lot of books by Bruce Ecker, the kind of pioneer with memory reconsolidation research. And I've read in some of his books where he's like, I don't understand why the therapy world is not latching onto it and going full force, because this actually helps people. And when I read that, I truly believe it's because this isn't in it for the long haul. The depressive person isn't going to be in there for 3 years now every month. That depressive person's going to be able to heal and move on and not need to go to therapy all the time. So I think it's a little bit of that, but I think we will be seeing a lot more different therapies soon. Here is the resource page. This is everything that I've, for the most part, have taken. Some of it is in other little various research articles and stuff. So if you want more, let me know and I can send you more stuff. If you get any of these books like Memory Reconsolidation and Psychotherapy, that one has so many, the whole bibliography is just ginormous and has like probably, I would say, at least 10 pages of research articles that you can find on Google Scholar, so many different things. You can buy the Coherence Therapy Practice Manual. That's what I bought. That's what I have. I love learning more about that. So it's really great. Melissa Tears, like I said before, she's got her integrative hypnosis book, anti-anxiety toolkit book. There's just a lot of great stuff. And I do like that it's not so spread out where everybody's teaching it. But it is a solid process. Everybody does have that underlying process of the 3 steps of activating your memory, disconfirming it, and switching between the two. And I do want to explain a little bit just about how I can see that working in real life. So what happens is, because we have these epiphanies all the time. People have epiphanies and those aha moments and the light switches on and all of that stuff. It all happens because of this memory reconsolidation, this innate process in our brain. And it's because I've heard people who have loved hot dogs their whole life. All of a sudden, they found out what's in a hot dog. Well, that's memory reconsolidation. They quickly updated that memory to be like, that hot dog is disgusting. I'm never eating it again. And you can see it in so many little different instances like that, that's what our brains do to just survive better as a species. But now we're not in that survival mode. We're not these cave women, these cave people, and we're not trying to, not get attacked by these wild animals outside. We don't have to do that. And now we can be so much more intentional about this. And that's what I truly believe, this new age of spiritualism that we're in right now, the consciousness, the collective of everybody, just expanding even more, I think is so important, that we introduce stuff like this, because everybody's trying to heal right now, and everybody is trying to look for that quick fix. And this is that quick fix. And it's not meant to be some, oh yeah, this is just some little nothing. This is something that's meant to truly help you and truly uncover those deeply rooted beliefs, because that's all you have to do. All you have to do is confront your shadow, and you have to integrate it into your life. It's not seeing your shadow and then dismissing it and saying, well, you're not a part of me, go away. No, we're all connected, and that shadow is a part of you too. And by doing this, you can see consciously your shadow, and you can think of your own disconfirming belief. That's the other thing, is this is all up to you. You have the power to make these decisions. You have the power to control all of this, which is really great for so many different things, because it's great for empowering yourself. It's great for empowering your client. And it also gives you a lot less work with your clients, because what happens is you don't know what's going to happen in your session before you talk to the people. You don't know how you're going to help them until you start talking to them. So maybe they don't resonate with the Akashic records. Okay, well then I know I'm not going to give them Akashic record reading. Maybe I tried the habit deprivation and they were very resistant to that. So then I'll go on to sentence completion. And there's more. There's a 2-step process. There's the EMDR that I talked about, the EFT. I really like the EFT. I've been trying that out myself. There's a lot of different taps that you can do on your head. I like on your eyebrows, your third eye, down here, your chest or your collarbones, your hands. There's so many different ways you can do it. And I really truly believe that this is going to help in a lot of different ways, just because this is who we are. And this is what we've been trying to find out. And if you do end up reading these books, you will quickly see how unbelievably related science and spirituality really is. And from so many people I've heard, they are one of the same things. And now I truly believe that. Just because they always, and the two words they use the most not interchangeably together, but both of them use the most, is vibrations and frequency. And even science. I was reading this Principles of Neuroscience book, and one of the first things they say is, we have no clue how to measure consciousness. They're like, we have no idea. And a lot of everything that we take as such fact is very much just based on speculation. So I love reading the hard science, but then when there's gaps in science, that's when we can start filling it in with spirituality. That's where the spirituality starts making sense. But everything all comes together. But it's such a divided community, where a lot of people in the science community, a lot of them are atheists, or they just don't really believe in the afterlife or anything like that, which is totally fine. That's them. That's what they're doing. But then it just makes us harder to integrate the two together, because, they think we're woo-woo and we think they're nerds. And, here's me who's both. So this is what I'm trying to introduce to everybody, because I think it's fantastic. And I think a lot of people will benefit from it. So I do have an invitation for you. I have a little 3-week package that's 1 60-minute session per week. And what I'll do is I'll teach you how to use the sentence completion habit deprivation on yourself. So you'll be able to use it whenever you want. You'll feel good about using it and really understand, we'll really be able to deep dive into it. And you'll see for yourself how you can uncover this, and then you can take that and use it with your clients if you work with clients. And then I have a lot more ways to regulate your nervous system, just to put in your toolbox, because like I said, not everybody resonates with everything. That's why it's great to have so many tools in your toolbox, that you can just kind of, well, let's try this one on. If this one didn't work, okay, let's try this one on. It's really not about like, oh, this sucks, I hate this. It's just about, okay, let's try something else then. And then I do have something that's optional, is Monday and Friday accountability with me. I know some people like that, some people don't. It's not more or less, it's just there if you want it, there if you're not. But it's really just me just checking in with you and seeing how you feel. There's a pay in full price of $175, and then there's 2 payment prices: before the first week, $95, and before the third week is $95. So that's my quick little invitation for you. I'm not going to talk anything else about it. If you want it, there it is. If you have any questions, I think you can let me know in the chat. Otherwise, if you would like a replay, if you would like a copy of the slides, let me know, because that's why I did the slides. Usually I like to have my whiteboard out and I like to draw stuff on there, but this way I can give people the goods, so you can read it for yourself. And I know sometimes I try to take like screenshots of stuff, and that's a lot of work. So if you don't have any questions, that's totally fine. If you do and you don't know now and you have them later, message me. I will be here for you. Otherwise, thank you all so much for coming. I'm so thankful that you were able to stay with me and try this out and see what it was like. So I'm very appreciative of that. And like I said, if you have anything else, please let me know, because I'm here. All right. Thank you, everybody. I just got to figure out how to end it. Oh, I got to just, we'll see. You guys can just hear me talk until I'm done. Okay. Bye, everybody. Thanks again.